Welcome back to another episode of Weekly Stock and Crypto News. We are going to be doing this every week from now on, so make sure that you subscribe to the YouTube channel, click the like button. Let's get straight into it. As you see here, guys, this past week wasn't a very good week for the stock market. The US stock market recorded its worst day in 4 years. Over $1.65 trillion wiped out from the US stock market at open just a few days ago. So, as of now, the US stock market has officially lost over $10 trillion since President Trump was inaugurated, which is pretty crazy if you think about it. So what's the reason behind all this craziness? The main reason that the markets have been crashing is the tariffs, of course. Just a few days ago, President Trump announced the reciprocal tariffs, and this had a huge impact in the markets. On April 2nd, Trump announced a new tariff policy, introducing a 10% universal tariff on all imports into the United States, effective April 5th. And additionally, higher reciprocal tariffs were imposed on specific countries, reflecting the administration's assessment of each nation's trade practices. These tariffs, effective April 9, vary by country. Some examples are China, 34%, the European Union, 20%, Vietnam, 46%, Japan, 24%, and so on. But in this list right here, you can see the tariffs charged to the United States. Look at this, guys. China, 67%, the European Union, 39%, Vietnam, 90%, which is pretty crazy. So looking at this list right here, guys, it's pretty clear to me that we have trade imbalances that need to be addressed properly. So these tariffs are part of the administration's strategy to address trade imbalances and are set to take effect in two phases: the 10% baseline tariff on April 5th, followed by the higher reciprocal tariffs on April 9th. The policy has elicited varied international responses, with some countries seeking negotiations and others considering retaliatory measures. The global economic community is closely monitoring potential impacts on international trade dynamics. As you see here, the world's richest 500 people lost over $208 billion following Trump's tariffs announcement. This is the largest drop in Bloomberg Billionaires Index since COVID-19 pandemic, which is pretty crazy. Here is what JP Morgan has to say about this. JP Morgan says, Donald Trump's tariffs represent the largest tax increase since the Revenue Act of 1968 and could push the United States perilously close to slipping into recession by driving up inflation and crippling consumer spending. Also, Jerome Powell, commenting on the tariffs, he said, "It is now becoming clear that tariff increases will be significantly larger than expected. And the same is likely to be true of the economic effects, which will include higher inflation and slower growth. The size and duration of these effects remain uncertain." Listen, guys, honestly, JP Morgan and Jerome Powell might be right about this. This might be difficult in the short term, but at least in my opinion, the US is imposing these new tariffs to rebalance decades of unfair trade, where foreign countries taxed US goods while benefiting from open access to American markets. So this shift aims to restore domestic manufacturing, reduce reliance on geopolitical rivals like China, and generate national income to fund innovation, defense, and infrastructure. While it may bring short-term market pain, the long-term goal is to position America as the dominant economic and technological power for the next 50 to 250 years, reshaping the global trade order with an America First foundation. Treasury Secretary Bessent says, "The American trading system will be fair to our workers again. We are revitalizing the American dream. My advice to every country right now is do not retaliate on tariffs. Sit back, take it in, let's see how it goes. Because if you retaliate, there will be escalation. But if you don't, this is the high watermark. I would advise none of the countries to panic. I wouldn't try to retaliate because as long as you don't, this is the high end of the number." Also, President Trump says almost every country has called to negotiate deals after the tariffs announcement. Every country has called us. That's the beauty of what we do, he said. we put ourselves in the driver's seat. So Trump's goal, guys, with these tariffs is to pressure other countries to come to the negotiating table and agree to fairer, more balanced trade deals that benefit the US in the long term. For example, look at this. Argentina has decided to move towards a trade agreement with the United States of America, one under which tariffs and trade barriers will become nothing more than a bad memory of the past. Also, look at this. President Trump said Vietnam's president told him that they will cut tariffs to zero if they can make a deal with the United States. And this is pretty crazy, guys, because if we take a look at this list that I showed you earlier, look at this. Vietnam, 90%. Vietnam charges 90% tariffs to the United States already. And now they are willing to cut that to zero. Now, Germany, of course, decided to retaliate on the tariffs. As you see here, Germany is considering withdrawing approximately 1,200 tons of gold valued around 124 billion from a US Federal Reserve vault in New York due to concerns over Trump's unpredictable policies. Honestly, I didn't expect anything more from Germany at this point. I know they don't like Trump. They make decisions that don't align with America's policies. So we Americans don't really care about what Germany does. Germany is so behind on the US on every aspect, and they are putting themselves in a position that they don't deserve to be in. That's my opinion about Germany, guys. If you disagree with it, please let me know in the comments below. So clearly, I'm just telling you straight up that I don't think this is smart in my opinion. This is not a smart decision. And I really think that if they do something like that, it's not going to work out well for them. They will end up having more issues than they currently do. And they need to change their attitude because America has helped Germany all these years so much. I'm not going to waste any more time talking about Germany. I know this move was pretty expected. So let's go to China. China said nope to selling TikTok to the US after Trump's latest tariffs. Anyway, President Trump signed an executive order to keep TikTok up and running for an additional 75 days. We will see what's happening with TikTok in the future. Trump thinks that tariffs work, and they are going to make this happen in the future. Next, California. Look at this, guys. California asks countries to exclude it from any retaliatory tariffs on the US. California is going against the president, and honestly, this is not a wise move in my opinion, guys. Because the United States should move as one, together, and strong. There is no such a thing as the rest of the US is making a decision, is making a move, but California is doing something different. That doesn't make sense to me. So I am going to leave it at that. Let me know in the comments below what do you think about California's decision. So let's move on to look into some charts that I have here for you. This is ES1. It's the ticker symbol for the E-mini S&P 500 futures on the CME, Chicago Mercantile Exchange. It tracks the performance of the S&P 500 and is widely used by traders to speculate on or hedge against moves in the US stock market, especially after hours. So this is the impact that the tariffs had in the S&P 500. If we zoom out, we see that there is a death cross incoming, where the 50-day moving average, if we zoom out and we take a look on the daily chart, you see this blue line, the 50-day moving average, trying to cross below the yellow line, which is the 200-day moving average. And when this cross occurs, this is the so-called death cross. If this happens, which is very, very possible, we are going to see further downside in the stock market. But if we zoom out even more, I really think that there is nothing to worry about because in the past, we've seen a death cross occurring multiple times, for example here or here. And in the beginning, we experienced some kind of a pullback, but look at what happened afterwards, guys. Look at this. We had the death cross, a pullback, and then boom, everything skyrocketed. Then again, we had the death cross here, a pullback, and then boom. So this is what I want to see happening now. After this pullback, I expect everything to boom again. These pullbacks are necessary in order for the markets to continue booming. I am going to make a video doing deeper technical analysis on this chart soon, so make sure that you subscribe to the YouTube channel and click the bell icon so you receive notifications when I post updates on these setups so you don't miss them. Anyway, the good thing is that Bitcoin has been performing relatively well these days while the stock market has been crashing. And that's how Bitcoin shows its power, guys, right? In this chart, we are looking at Bitcoin over the S&P 500. It has been exploding recently. When this chart is going up, it means that Bitcoin is outperforming the S&P 500, basically and briefly. So that's good that Bitcoin is holding so strong during this market crash. But pay attention, guys, because if we take a look here, we are looking at Bitcoin over USDT daily chart. We see that we have another death cross happening right now, where the 50-day moving average, the blue line, is about to cross below the 200-day moving average soon. And even though Bitcoin has been holding strong recently, technically, we expect to see further downside based on that death cross. Therefore, it's very possible that Bitcoin is going to break below this triangle pattern, just like we see right now. We see it happening on the chart. And due to this death cross, we are going to see further downside soon. It's very, very possible. Again, make sure that you subscribe to the YouTube channel, click the like button, hit the bell icon so you receive notifications, because soon I am going to make videos where I do technical analysis on this setup also, Bitcoin over USDT. Now, this is what Treasury Secretary Bessent said when it comes to Bitcoin. Gold will likely be exempt from tariffs. Compares Bitcoin to gold as a store of value. So we might see some temporary pullback on Bitcoin in the coming days. But overall, people compare Bitcoin to gold as a store of value, which is really, really bullish, at least in the long term. Now, let's take a look at altcoins real quick. This is the Crypto Fear and Greed Index. It dropped down to 25 after Trump's tariff announcements. So we have extreme fear going on. However, remember what Warren Buffett said, guys. Be fearful when others are greedy, and be greedy when others are fearful. Next, the SEC clarified that stablecoins are not securities. Look at this. Acting Securities and Exchange Commission (SEC) Chair Mark T. Ujeda directed agency staff on Saturday to review several previously issued staff statements regarding cryptocurrency investment and the application of securities laws to the digital assets. The directive, issued in accordance with Executive Order 1419-2, titled Unleashing Prosperity Through Deregulation, follows recommendations from the Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE. Ujeda noted that the staff statements will be examined to determine if they should be modified or recited to align with the current priorities of the agency. Among the key documents slated for review, originally published in 2019, provides detailed guidance for assessing whether a digital asset is considered a security under the Howey test, which determines whether an investment involves an expectation of profits based primarily on the efforts of others. The application of Howey with respect to digital assets is a hotly debated legal matter, though the SEC has made some recent clarifications noting that meme coins are largely exempt from securities laws. So this is the statement where the SEC clarified that stablecoins are not securities. Moreover, the total trading volume of altcoins has returned to pre-FTX bankruptcy levels, with the top 10 altcoins accounting for 64% of total volume. This is what extreme fear looks like. Here we have some news on Ripple XRP. Ripple lawsuit takes strange turn as man fined $10 million claims to possess decisive evidence. Though the case is nearly closed, he says his data could protect the public from regulatory overreach. There is not much to say about this now. We are going to monitor this closely and see what is going to happen with this in the future. Last but not least, Ethereum, guys. Look at this. Ethereum transaction fees dropped to historic lows as transaction volume remains stable. Transaction fees have plummeted to multi-year lows, with a 7-day moving average now generating less than 500,000 daily. A stark contrast to the 12-month peak of 30 million observed in March of 2024. This is a crazy huge difference, guys. Despite this dramatic decline in fee revenue, daily transaction volume has remained relatively stable at approximately 1.2 million transactions per day, suggesting a shift in network economics rather than diminished usage. Several network improvements have reduced fees, particularly the implementation of EIP 4844, Proto-Dank sharding, which introduced blob transactions, significantly reducing Layer 2 rollup costs by providing cheaper data availability. Layer 2 solutions, particularly Base, have emerged as the go-to for many users, attracted by significantly lower costs while still benefiting from Ethereum's security. Honestly, guys, I know that many of you are hating Ethereum, but I am really bullish on Ethereum. I think Wall Street is going to start pumping Ethereum sooner or later, and we are going to see Ethereum leading the altcoin season in the coming months. So that's all I had for you today, guys. These were the most important news this week when it comes to crypto and the stock market and the economics of the world in general. Make sure that you subscribe to the YouTube channel, click the like button, and hit the bell icon so you receive notifications when I post important news like this. We are going to do this every week from now on, so I'll see you on the next one, guys. Take care.